The reason why I originally wanted to become a product manager was really because I think, well, and this is maybe where product management has changed over the last 15 years that I've been doing it. And so when I first got into it, I really, I mean, something that I even did when I was a kid was one of the things I loved to do would just sit around and plan how a lemonade stand would work on paper. And so it's like this idea of trying to think about the problem space overall, like how does this system work? How does this organization work? How do I make sure, how do I try to plan for this thing to be successful? I think is really within the core of what a product manager does. Now, when I first started at Microsoft, and I just responded to Steve Sinofsky about this, who is like a VP at Microsoft and he blogs a lot on Medium about this type of thing. But you know, we would write really large specs, and we would do a very much like waterfall style process. And I think initially, when it was a product manager's job, was really to try to be as creative as possible in understanding all the edge cases, and then either mitigating them or understanding that they were there. And then constantly making this, like doing this horse trading trade-off while the whole machine like ratcheted down towards this release point. And so, you know, this is maybe where I think also, I think maybe one of the things that's thankless about being a product manager is that if the project is unsuccessful, I feel like it tends to hang on the product manager's shoulders a bit more than anybody else's, because like, why didn't they think about that? I think when you get into agile teams, it's less about that, right? When you get into agile teams, balanced teams, lean teams, it's less about like the product manager did not see this coming, and so that was a problem. But back then when it was waterfall, I mean, if you didn't write it in your spec and the engineers didn't estimate it correctly, like that was the 1 cent fix that you could have done in the spec is now a $10 problem that you just released, basically. And so I think that's where a lot of this comes from. And so initially, I was really motivated by trying to understand these whole systems and trying to understand all of the different ways that it could possibly work. And this was like a very imaginary and creative activity for me. And so I think it linked that a lot of this design thinking that I had before with the concepts around technology. And so that's probably what motivated me at first, really, around product management. I think as time has gone on, product management has kind of reinvented itself for me a couple different times. And probably the most recent one has really been around the fact that, you know, because we try to build these things for such complex systems now, you definitely don't know everything. And if you assume you do, you're wrong, right? And if you don't in some way plan for the unexpected, so, and even, I guess maybe it's not plan, but it's like brace for the unexpected, because it's gonna happen, right? If you're not able to deal with ambiguity, if you're not able to deal with the unknowns of the world, then being a product manager is a lot harder. And so I think that's maybe something that I've really focused on an awful lot, is trying to understand how I can be better at ambiguity. How can I be better at embracing uncertainty? How do you actually prioritize things based on the fact that you don't know everything? And so that's been a lot of like this practice within philosophy, is how do we focus a lot on unknowns rather than the knowns up front? And so we use frameworks like Kinefin, a couple other types of voting techniques, a bunch of different research techniques that I really love, that I think have helped me do this. So yeah, I mean, I definitely did not get into product management because at Microsoft, I was going to be writing like a 500-page spec that translated an RFC into something that could be translated into Hotmail for integration with Outlook and Exchange. I did not get into product management for that. But a lot of that like creative problem solving, I think, is what really has always interested me.